Welcome back to another episode of The Root of All Success. Have you ever felt yourself not being as productive as you want to be? I mean, have you had this instance where you've worked all day and you got done? You're like, what the hell did I do? Did I get anything done? Nothing happened of any value. Now, you did some stuff, but you're not sure, was I productive? Did I get things done? Well, today we're going to be talking with Amber De La Garza. She's the productivity specialist. She has more than a decade of experience helping small business owners just like you maximize your profits. Who doesn't want that? Reduce stress. Again, who doesn't want that? And make time for what matters most. And that's really what business is about. If you're building a business that requires you to be there, you can't focus on what matters the most because your family, your friends, your faith, your community activities, that's what matters the most. The point of owning a business is not to run it. It's to let that business provide the lifestyle that you want. And so she's helping people make time for what matters most by improving what she calls their time management. Now, if you've listened to the show that I don't believe in time management, and Amber and I talked about that on her show. And so we'll probably get into that in a minute, but we're going to give her an opportunity to talk about what she believes there. And it's all about productivity. And she's a sought after coach. She's a trainer, speaker, writer. She's a host of her own podcast, which I was a guest on, and I'll let her talk about that in a minute. It's called Small Business Straight Talk Podcast. So hit pause on this episode right now. Go find that in your favorite player, bookmark it, go listen to that later. She's also the creator of something called Leverage Lab. And she shares in these talks, she calls straight talks and virtually, and she does those in person across the country, where she talks to small business owners like you and me and other associations, multinational corporations, anywhere and everywhere. So I'm going to tell you at the end of the show, if you stick around, how to get in touch with Amber and how you can maybe bring her in to talk to you about your business and your productivity. So Amber, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. We have so much alignment. I'm looking forward to this chat today.
Yeah, well, I know that when I was on your show not too long ago, I remember you and I kind of feeling the same way. Like there's a lot of synergy between what you do as a coach and what I do. And so how did you get into being the productivity specialist? I mean, everything looks neat and tidy over your right shoulder behind you, but I'm sure that wasn't always the case. So how did you get into being the productivity, this person that has everything figured out?
So, the neat and tidy, I actually have to be honest with you. I've been neat and tidy since I was a kid. I geeked out about organizing my bedroom. But my origin story actually started with seeing real challenges with business owners. So, take it back just a little bit. When I was in high school, my family was incredibly poor. Really challenged. And somebody at my high school said, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, college might not be for you. Like, what's the path? And I decided I wanted to do real estate because they had money and they got to see beautiful houses and drive great cars. And I got into a program my junior and senior year where I went to school 4 days and interned 1 day a week. And I did real estate. And that's where that got started. I ended up going to college. I actually got a degree in real estate and business management. And I worked in real estate all through college. And long story short, I got done and I hated real estate. I hated selling real estate. I got licensed really young. It was my vision of success with the limited knowledge I had. Like, that's what I thought success was. And that did not work out when I really lived it out. So it was the first time that I was like, but what do I really enjoy doing? And I loved the operations side of real estate. I loved the processes, the business systems. So I did what any young 20-year-old did, and I asked for a meeting with the owner of what then was Prudential Americana. And I said, will you start me anywhere? And they started me second over receptionist. I was breaking the receptionist with a college degree. But it was the seed that led to following, like, what brought me joy? What did I really enjoy doing? So through that journey, I had a great mentor and I became a business coach in real estate. So I taught real estate professionals how to leverage themselves through building a team. And these are really the top 2% of real estate professionals. But they would come to the coaching sessions and they would say, this is great. Like, I get it. I want to build my team. I want to leverage. But guess what they would say? I have no time to work on my business. I only have time to work in my business. And that was when the seed was planted. And then fast forward, I had my son, took all my vacation, all my maternity leave, and I said I wasn't going back.
I'm out.
I'm out. Because there was that pivotal moment that everything that I thought was success, which was riding the corporate ladder, building my real estate coaching business at that time through my position, what I thought was success was changed in an instant after I had my son.
How old is your son now?
My son is turning 15 very soon.
Oh, wow. It's been a
Mhm.
long time.
It's been a
So
very
you
long
said,
time.
I'm leaving the glamorous life of being a receptionist in a real estate firm behind. I'm done. I'm done
Yeah,
with it.
well, I only did that for a couple months. I got promoted time and time again, over and over, until I was running a training division. And from the
Uh,
training division, I was a coach. And that's what I was doing shortly before I left. Um, I I decided that I did not want to grind it out 50 hours a week on a salary. And I really wanted to be at home and raise my son. So my husband and I had made a goal that I would stay home for the first 2 years. And when I went in to quit, the COO leaned over the desk and said, "Good for you for choosing family over business," which I think we should all do. It's
Amen.
hands down, right? So do you want to stay on as a consultant? Like, didn't even take a breath. Like, I took a breath. He didn't take a breath. He said, "Good for you for choosing family over business. Do you want to stay on as a consultant?" And at that time, I was brokerage manager and I was running projects because they were doing acquisitions in other states. So a lot of processes, leading a team, systems, all of that. And I said, I don't know. I need to talk to my husband. Like, we had a plan. So let me see how this fits in. I ultimately said yes, and I got a taste of the freedom of working for yourself, charging what you're worth, not just what the salary was when you were in corporate. And by the time my son was 2 months old, I had the idea that I could help other business owners with the seed that I just shared. Years of coaching, I have no time to work on my business because I'm in my business and I'm stressed out. So by the time my son was 2 months old, I incorporated, and it was called Organizational Elements. And I thought every business owner needs efficiency. Every business owner needs processes. And so I called myself an organizational consultant. Well, guess what? Nobody wants an organizational consultant, Jason.
They might need it, but they don't want it. And they only pay for what they want, not what they
Right. So
need.
this exactly. And so this is the first like marketing tip, right? Is like, okay, so like I know there's a need, but I wasn't getting much traction. So I didn't change my services and I changed it to efficiency consultant. And that was it. The business took off because efficiency is seen as a necessity, organization is seen as a luxury in a business.
Interesting. That's an
Mhm.
interesting perspective. Why do you think that is?
I'm not quite sure why it is, other than that we prioritize efficiency and it's closest to the dollar, right? Like that if we're more efficient, we're making better profits. An organization is seen as like, oh, well, it's nice to have. Like you commented on the nice, tidy office. It's like it's nice to have, but is it actually connected to the operation of the business and the profitability? And my answer is it is a supporting role. And now you're talking to me 15 years later. And what I do know is that it is not the center stage. And that is ultimately how I ended up into productivity a couple years later. Even though efficiency consultant took off and those services, I was focused on business systems. And what I learned was if you don't work with the heart, like the habit, the behavior, the mindset change, it doesn't matter what system you put into your business, you're not going to follow it. It's not going to be sustainable over time. So I wanted to dig even deeper to solving the problem. And that's how I came to the productivity specialist, is helping people change the way they work, what their mindset is, their habits, and really identifying what is most important in their businesses so they can have successful businesses and make time for what matters most, as you said earlier.
So, what does time management mean to you? What does that mean?
Well, I chuckled in your intro because if I didn't say time management, nobody would Google it because that's what they call it, right?
That's right. Yep.
Man, I've tried so many times over the years to come up with something clever that people would get right off the top of their head. Really, this is about priority management. It's about energy management. It's about so much more than time management. And it's cliche to say we all have the same amount of time, but truly it's about making decisions about your most valuable asset, your most valuable resource that you have, and that is time. For me, being your most productive self, the way I define it is we're being our most productive selves when we're investing our best time into our best activities. And it's less of a definition and more of a framework, because my best time is when I'm focused, distraction free, I'm deep into creating something amazing in the business. But what is my best work? It's different than probably what your highest value is in your business, because our goals are different, our businesses are different, how we serve our businesses are different. And so when we're showing up consistently our best and doing our best work, that is being our most productive selves.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you and I talked about this on your shows at time management. There is no other way to describe it that the world would understand. So yeah, you and I both talk about time management, but I don't. I believe time management is impossible. You can go back to people like Bob Proctor. They agreed. That time management is impossible because time can't be managed. You can only manage what you focus on. You
That's
can only
right.
manage where you put your energy, which you said, your
Hmm.
priorities. Those are the things that you can manage. You can't manage time because time ticks away whether you do anything or not. You can't get more of it, and once it's gone, it's gone. So paying attention to what matters the most is what matters most. What's interesting to me is that your story begins with that as the central thesis. I mean,
Hmm.
you quit because you
Hmm.
wanted to pay attention to what matters most, which is your family, your husband, your
Yeah.
son,
Yeah.
and you made that decision. And had you not made that decision, we would not be talking today, probably,
That's
right?
that's right. And I think that a lot of business owners that are listening probably quit a employment, corporate position, to be able to have quote.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
I finally got it. It's the brand new Relay credit card. So check it out. I'm gonna do a little unboxing for you so you can check this out. So here we go. Nice little case, kind of like the American Express. They're not playing. They're doing it right. Oh, look at this. There's a quote right inside that says, "Success is having to worry about every damn thing in the world except money." Johnny Cash. That's pretty good. I've not heard that one. Oh, this is nice. A little thing on the back, up to 1.5% cash back, no annual fees or interest, 30-day billing cycle. And there it is. It's the Relay credit card. It's a Visa. So I'm not going to show you my number, but there it is. Look at that. Boom. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/relay.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Unquote more freedom, right? Freedom of time, freedom to make decisions. And unfortunately, if you forget why you wanted to start a business, it's so easy for the business to rob you of those freedoms, because then you become a slave to the next goal, the next project, the next thing that the business needs. And if you don't keep it front and center, that that's the reason why, is that you wanted more freedom in your life. I've seen it so many times. It's so easy to slip away.
Yeah. You said, the freedoms that people want, freedom of time, you mentioned freedom of energy, etc. I have been playing with an idea, and I don't remember where I got it. I'm sure I wasn't the originator of this idea, and I want to run it past you to see what you think. But I believe that I have believed for a long time that the most important freedom that we want is the freedom of time. And I think that most people, given the opportunity to sit and have a thoughtful conversation, would say, yeah, that is the most important freedom as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, freedom of time. But I've been playing with this idea, Amber, that there's a higher freedom. There's a higher freedom that we want more than freedom of time, and that's freedom of attention. And
Oh,
what I mean is not getting attention, it's what we pay attention to. Because what you can have all the free time in the world, but if you're not paying attention to what's most important, or whatever you consider to be important, then that freedom really isn't worth as much. It's the freedom to pay attention to what you want to pay attention to that is better. Because let's face it, a lot of business owners, they may have a lot of freedom of time, but they're still required to pay attention to things that they don't want to pay attention to.
yeah.
And so I want to build a business that gives me freedom of attention, that I can pay attention to what I want to pay attention to. I'd be interested to hear what you think about that.
I think I was like holding on to every word because I actually level it up as well. And it's very similar. We use different words, but myself, my husband, the conversations we have is that real success is the freedom of choice and
Hmm.
choice to pay attention to something, but choice with where you're putting your time, choice with where you're and how you're using your resources or your skill sets or your talents, right? Is again, attention for, like, as you're saying as well. You know, during COVID in 2021, I got very, very sick. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I almost did not make it. It was a very life changing moment of knowing what's important. And as I was recovering, I was really aware of was that I had time, I had money, my business was doing well, I had loved ones, but because my health wasn't top notch, all my attention had to go to health. Right. And so we can play this out that we need healthy businesses, we need healthy bodies, we need healthy relationships so that we can choose where we're putting our attention and that it's not being demanded from us. I had no other choice other than to, you know, pay attention mostly solely to getting better. And I feel like there's a lot of people listening that are probably dealing with health issues, but also have unhealthy businesses where they no longer have the choice of attention.
Hmm. Let's now turn our attention to another topic, like what I did there. Let's talk about your experience and expertise as a productivity specialist. If you're talking to a group of entrepreneurs, which is who you're talking to right now, who are
Yeah.
listeners, what are your top 2 or 3 tips that you say this will make you more productive, more efficient, whatever word you want to put in there? Give us 2 or 3 tips, and feel free to spend some time on each of them. You don't have to go quickly through them. Let's dig in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one strategy that I would say has the biggest impact is planning the day and planning every day. And it sounds simple, but if you talk to people, they're like, "Yeah, I plan it," and then some days go by, or maybe they're inconsistent about it. But when you plan your day and plan it consistently, it puts you from being reactive in your business to proactive. It puts you in the driver's seat. And I want to say a few things about planning your day. One, it doesn't need to be a big drawn out process. You can get it done in 10 to 15 minutes. Two, we do not plan our days because our days go as planned. Because I don't know about you, Jason. I've done this for 15 years. I plan my days. My clients plan their days. No day has ever gone exactly as planned. Ever, ever, ever. And so the question is, well, if the day doesn't go as planned, like what is the point, right? And my belief is that the point is that it's going to go more likely the way you intended because you have intention in your day. You have clarity on what your priorities are and what you're spending your attention on. And if you have a plan, we are able to, as business owners, pivot and shift quicker to reprioritize the things that are coming into us quickly and fast. So the reason a lot of people don't plan their days is because they're like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. And then I jump into my email and then an employee calls out and then a client is mad. And there's these things that happen and some of them are out of our control. But if we have a plan, we are more able to say, is this thing that just showed up more important than the thing I had planned? And sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. And it keeps you on track with what it is that is most important to move your business forward.
All right. So planning. Now, when you say plan your day, are you talking about sitting down at the top of every day or the bottom of the day before and writing out what you're going to do, or is it goals, or is it writing the times of events? Give me a little bit more insight on what you mean by planning the day.
Yeah. So it breaks it down into a few steps. First of all, I recommend doing my planning at the end of the day for tomorrow, but there's not a right and wrong. And there's some pros and cons. For me, I don't wake up feeling the same way every day. Like I am the productivity specialist, but I do not wake up the day every single day and be like, today's the day. Like every day is a wonderful day. I'm going to nail the day. And because I don't wake up with that same exact energy, I actually want to separate the two because what I do have is optimism for tomorrow. So today could have gone sideways, right? Like today could have just been really rough. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, let me reset because tomorrow is going to be a better day. And so I like to use that energy of optimism and plan for tomorrow. The other thing that it does is actually separate the decision making, the strategic thinking from the doing. Because as much as we are business owners and we want to do more strategic and we want to be doing more of the planning. But the reality is we're doing a lot of the doing. And when you can separate the two, you negotiate with yourself less. So tomorrow, if I already have a plan, all I have to do is wake up and work the plan. But if I had created that plan very closely to the doing, then my emotions, my feelings, what I like to do, what I want to do, what popped up in my inbox is influencing how I plan my day. And I do not want that. Now, if you do not end your day the same way every day, meaning maybe you don't end your day in the office, maybe you're not ending it at the same time, or perhaps you're having some challenges with energy and by the end of the day, you're truly exhausted and it's not the time to be thinking strategically and planning, then I advise doing it in the morning, but ensuring that you're completely separating the planning from the start of your actual day.
So you're talking about if you're that person, you're going to plan Tuesday morning for Wednesday. Is that what you
No.
mean?
Then you'll do Tuesday morning, you have your planning, and then you have like your official start to the day, right? So if you're
Gotcha.
saying I start at 8:30, I want you in by 8:00, 8:15, right? Like it is, I mean, they're right next to each other, but I want it to be very clear that the first thing you do is plan your day and then you're going into the work.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. One of my cadences of my week is that every Monday morning, I sit down and I use a planner, and I'll show everybody so you can kind of see. This is the Think and Grow Rich Performance Planner. Now, the Napoleon Hill Foundation puts this out. I'm on my third year of using their planners, and there's nothing specific about it. It's just a calendar, but every Monday, I write down the whole week, and then I look at my Google Calendar and I see what events I've got, whether they're podcasts or coaches meetings or client meetings, and I put all of them down in the planner, and then I write my list of things I need to get accomplished. And usually I try to break them into big tasks, little tasks, medium tasks, etc.
Yep.
That's what I do on Monday. And then and then I go through the week, and the week generally stays the same most of the time. I mean, obviously there are cancellations and things pop up that weren't there Monday morning, but am I doing that right? Or is there a tweak to that methodology? You say, Jason, if you did this, you would be even more productive.
Yeah, actually, that is planning your week. So I like coupling planning your week with planning your day. And if you think about what you're doing, is you're putting like the scaffolding to your week, right? So you got your appointments, you got your big rocks, your projects, you're getting a lay of the land of how much available time you have to work on the tasks that are coming from your to-do list. I call it a daily wrap. So it's a daily review and action plan. That's the course correction. Because I'm guessing that when you're planning on Monday morning, you have no idea what came for you on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday by the time Friday happened. And so the daily planning is the course correction to get back to what your overarching goals were to accomplish for the week. But yeah, you're doing it right. It's just, and you may already be doing this, but I think you need course correction because there's so much new input. Right. And that's what's challenging for a business owner that's wearing so many hats, is that we have things coming in from, you call it everywhere, social media, email, clients, employees. And so all these new inputs need to be brought in and then updated on your task list. And that's the daily wrap. So let me go over the daily wrap and then I'll tie it back to the weekly review plan. So when you do a daily wrap, the first thing I want you to do is go through your calendar. Any other triggers. So like as techie as I like to be, I still have a steno pad that's with me all the time where I'm taking notes, right? So I'm looking through my notes, I'm looking through my calendar. Who did I talk to? Because it could be the end of the day and you forgot that you had a conversation with somebody at 9:00 and promised them something, or there was a follow-up from that call or meeting. You could be looking at your phone log. So what are your triggers for ensuring that you're updating the to-do list? And the reason we want to update the to-do list is
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur running multiple businesses, effective communication is critical for me. I've tried all kinds of outreach tools over the years, but none have compared to Dubb when it comes to driving real results, and that's DUBB. I was one of Dubb's first users. I think it was like 7 years ago when they first launched, and I've been a loyal customer ever since. Dubb has completely transformed my prospecting, my client communication strategy, and here's why. Dubb makes it simple to record personal video messages and share them across email, SMS, social media, and more. And this brings back the face to face connection that's missing from most digital outreach. And what happens is my prospects instantly feel more engaged when they can put my face to my name. I end up building a stronger relationship faster by incorporating these videos, these video messaging into my workflow. Dub also provides tracking and analytics so I can see exactly who engages with my videos and how they respond to them. Their automation and their CRM features help me nurture leads and close more deals. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right, as entrepreneurs. So after you're using Dub for years, I absolutely can't recommend them enough. I mean, Ruben, those guys over there are phenomenal. I love Darius. They're all great guys. It's become an invaluable tool that I depend upon to run my businesses efficiently. And if you want to boost your outreach and see amazing results like I have, head over to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. That's DUBB, and you can try it completely for free. No credit card required. You get the first 50. You get 50% off your first 2 months, by the way, if you use my link. You need to take your prospecting to the next level with video messaging from Dub. They're my go-to sales communication platform for nearly 7 years and counting. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/dub. Try it for free, no credit card required, and you'll get 50% off your first 2 months as well.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Because where do fires come from? Things that fell through the cracks and snuck up at a not opportune time. And so if we can get into this routine of always updating our task list, then we can properly prioritize. And so the second step is you're looking at tomorrow. Okay, so what's the lay of the land? Has anything changed? What's my availability? And then the next thing you're going to do is then update your task list and pull your priorities. And, we could probably talk for hours, Jason, about prioritizing. It's not as easy as people would like it to sound, like ABC 1, 2, 3. But I can tell you 2 things about prioritizing. Prioritizing is that tasks are in relation to each other and the amount of time that you have to get those done, right? And I'm sure that you would understand that you're like, here's my top priority, and then something comes in or something shifts, and your priorities can shift quite quickly on it when you're looking, really detailed at your daily or your weekly. And so to properly prioritize, we need an updated task list. Anything that came in new that we need to get updated so that we can see everything in one place. So anyways, you update your task list, you set your priorities, and then the key to all of this is the last step. And the last step is to schedule your tasks on your calendar, your priority tasks. And this is a form of time blocking. So maybe you've heard of your ideal week and blocking out the week and that things look very similar. But when you're planning your day and you schedule your specific tasks, you're getting a lot of benefits to this. And it's by answering 3 simple questions. What am I specifically doing? When am I doing it? And for how long am I doing it? And when you put something on your calendar, you're answering those 3 questions. And the reason why that's so beneficial is because time is very abstract. When you just have a list of things to do, you're like, oh, yeah, I can get those done in, today. But that's how things get rolled over. And we're not forced to properly prioritize because we're lying to ourselves that we're going to get it all done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start putting it on your calendar and answering those 3 questions, and you're like, oh, I got through 4 of the 6 things, but the 6th one was actually the one I really needed to be putting my attention, my time to. It helps you prioritize to see that you are out of time for that day. You cannot get to item number 6. So what truly are you going to be focused on? And the other benefit to the being specific is that many people do too broad. They're too broad with their tasks and they're not specific enough. And so they can't really estimate how long something will take them to do. And this is when you opened up the show saying, have you worked really hard and got stuff done, but didn't feel productive? This strategy right here is the difference between I worked really, really hard and I was tired when I put my head on the pillow, or I worked really hard. I feel great. It's actually energetic because I worked on the things that really mattered and needed my attention.
So let me ask you a question about success. After all, this is the root of all success as a show. in all your years as a productivity specialist, as a coach, helping people be more productive and efficient, how do you define the word success?
Yeah. So, my definition of success, as I shared in my origin story, has changed. And I always check in with what my own vision of success is. And I define success as having the choice. It's literally everything we talked about today, but it's really having the choice to make decisions in my life based on what brings me joy and what I value. And so, what that specifically looks like is where my family lives, how much time I have, if I can make it to every wrestling tournament my son has, pick him up from school, like, and have a business that funds my lifestyle. Like, that's a big part of it too. That's my vision of success, is that my business is not a source of stress, but a source of a resource to live my best life.
Based on that definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
I do.
I
I
love it.
do.
I
I
love
do.
that.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you now. We've talked a lot about your, tips on planning your day and doing the wraps, et cetera. But if you had to give one piece of advice to the listeners, just one, besides what we've already talked about, and this is kind of the parting piece of advice, what would you say? What does it take to start, build, grow, and sustain a thriving, good business?
I would say the biggest thing that had a change in my own business was when I looked at every decision as an experiment and not a right or wrong decision. So when I first started in business, it was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to do this right or if I'm making the right decision. And when I switched my mindset to say, let's just see what happens, that was the best advice that I had that changed my experience in my business and the outcomes.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, but look at your decisions you have to make as experiments rather than just right or wrong. That's good. That's a
Mhm.
very, very good way to put that. Amber, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I'm going to tell people here at the end how to get in touch with you. But before we close up, I want to give you the last word. What else is on your mind? Anything at all you want to tell the listeners about? What would you like to say is your last word for today?
Yeah, I mean, based on the topic of your podcast, my parting words are always check in with yourself and make sure you're living out what your own vision of success is. And that answer may make you make different decisions and pivot, but always be chasing your own vision and definition of success.
I think it's interesting. We talk about this idea of time and freedom of time, just like what Amber and I talked about on the show. And I wonder, and want to ask you to consider, do you have the freedoms that you think are most important? Because, you might not think time is the most important freedom, or attention is the most important freedom, as we talked about. But whatever you think the most important freedom is, do you have it? And if you don't have it, maybe you need to start looking at hiring a coach or a mentor, somebody that can help you find that. Because if you haven't found it yet and you've done it yourself, what's going to change? Nothing changes until something changes. So that's why it's really important to think about hiring coaches like Amber, like me. There's thousands and millions of other coaches out there that you can hire to help you get through this. But go check out her podcast. It's called the Straight Talk. Business Straight Talk Podcast, Small Business Straight Talk Podcast. You can look that up right now on whatever podcast player, Small Business Straight Talk Podcast. And look her up at amberdelagarza.com. I'm going to spell that out for those of you that want me to spell it out. Amber, Amber, De La Garza, Delagarza. AmberDelaGarza.com. Go check her out. She's on Facebook as The Productivity Specialist. The Productivity Specialist. She's also on Instagram at Amber_De La Garza, and she's on LinkedIn at Amber De La Garza. Tell everybody about the Next Level Business Quiz, the Next Level Business Owner Quiz.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, in 3 minutes, quick quiz, you can find out what's most holding you back in your business. And then once you find that out, you'll get a curated playlist of the podcast, The Small Business Straight Talk, with specific episodes that address those challenges. So, you don't have to go through 300 plus episodes. I'm going to give you the specific episodes that will solve those challenges in taking your business to the next level. You can get that at amberdelagarza.com/quiz.
Well, there you have it, folks. Go check that out. AmberDelaGarza.com/quiz. Amber, thank you for being on the show. Congratulations on all the success and especially for making that decision to spend time with your family over
Yeah.
your business. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Again, thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to Amber and her team for making this possible where she could be on my show. Make sure you tune in again next week when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.